Well, people are still coming in, but we should get started. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for MidPenn Legal Services, How to Avoid Elder Financial Abuse and Exploitation. We're going to start off by telling you a little bit about us. MidPenn Legal Services is a nonprofit public interest law firm. We provide free civil legal services to residents in 18 counties here in central Pennsylvania. Our clients are mostly folks living at or near the poverty threshold and survivors of domestic violence. If you want to learn more about our work, you can visit our website at www.midpenn.org or visit any of our social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and we have a YouTube channel. This session has been made possible by a grant from the Pennsylvania Interest on Lawyer Trust Account Board, and it is being recorded. It will also be available on our YouTube channel. Attendees are in listen-only mode. If you have a question, please enter it in the Q&A. After the session's over, if you have a question, you can message us on Facebook or email us at development@midpenn.org, and we'll pass it on to Daniel. I'm going to turn it over to Elise.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our last part 3 of Power of Attorney and Other Documents. It is my pleasure to introduce Daniel. Daniel Handley was raised in Delaware. He served for 2 years as a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Phoenix, Arizona, where he worked closely with community leaders to serve low-income populations. After graduating from Brigham Young University with a BA in history, he earned his law degree from Penn State Dickinson School of Law. During law school, he volunteered with Youth Legal Services, again serving low-income populations. He also interned at an elder law firm where he focused on preparing powers of attorney and helping victims of elder financial abuse, which is leading us exactly to today's topic of discussion. Thank you so much, Daniel. I turn it over to you.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to part 3 of our series. Part 1 was a look at powers of attorney and other planning documents and their details. Part 2 was how to choose a good agent and looking at the powers and duties of agents under a power of attorney. And part 3, we will talk about what is elder financial abuse and what are some ways that we can reduce the risk, prevent it, how we can report it if we do see it, and things like that. Today, we'll be providing a bit of information, but not legal advice. So if anyone on the call wants to receive legal advice, call the intake number and we'll see what we can do. As the project safe attorney for MidPenn Legal Services, I get to go out and conduct a lot of education on the topics that we have had in our series. I also get to help establish the planning documents for seniors, and I get to educate on how to make the most of your finances to avoid being taken advantage of. And that is the topic of today. So we will talk about lots of different ways that we can recognize and reduce the risk for our seniors in our community and for our loved ones. So some of us may have loved ones living in facilities, nursing homes, and it's up to us to help in this great cause. So elder financial exploitation is a type of elder abuse. Elder abuse can take lots of different forms. Alone or in combination, it can be physical, psychological, emotional. There can be sexual abuse, neglect, abandonment, and sometimes self-neglect. So these are all fit under, these are elder abuse, and we focus with Project Safe, focus on preventing financial exploitation. The Older Americans Act defines elder exploitation, financial exploitation, as fraudulent or otherwise illegal acts that use the resources of the person for your own personal benefit or your own personal gain. So these actions deprive these older people of their resources, the things that they own, the things that they have worked hard for, the things that they are entitled to. And so we want to prevent individuals from depriving our loved ones and our seniors from enjoying their retirement and the rest of their lives. One question is, who's at risk for financial exploitation? Well, anyone can be the victim of financial exploitation. Financial exploitation crosses all social, educational, and economic boundaries. There have been studies that older adults are more at risk because scammers and bad actors see older adults as easier targets, right? Older adults, they may have accumulated things throughout their life, many years of working, they have regular income, or they are now collecting their retirement and Social Security, and so those are steady payments. Many seniors that I know they're too trusting and too polite. They don't verify a lot of times, and so if someone comes in and kind of plays a role and tries to deceive, the older adults can a lot of times be too trusting and polite and want to help. A lot of seniors who are widowed or divorced and living alone, they will be lonely. And if they're not participating with other family members or in senior centers or in their churches, they can be socially isolated, and so they become easier targets. They have fewer people to tell about exploitation, and so the scammers look for these types of seniors that are isolated. It's easier to become a trusted individual with the senior. The seniors may be in vulnerable emotional states because of loss of family members, loss of jobs. They could, if they're losing a house, they can be due to those things, and so scammers will go after seniors that way. And then if they are receiving help from family members or caregivers or someone they depend on, seniors tend not to report that because they will talk about why they don't report, but they'll be reluctant. And then if they are dependent on report from family members, they want to not rock the boat kind of thing, and so they won't report. So they're continued, they are at risk for financial exploitation because they may be receiving care from people with financial or other issues. So if a caregiver is also suffering from substance abuse or has gambling problems or just
your camera is kind of breaking up, so if you want to shut your video off, it might help the audio.
Okay, let me know if this turns out to be better. So we talked about how seniors may be fearful of reporting because their caregiver might retaliate and might say things to cause the senior to be afraid for their own safety or for their financial safety. As we get older, it's been studied that we tend to lose our ability to make good decisions regarding our finances. And so we also may be unfamiliar with managing our own finances. So if a spouse was the manager of the family finances and that spouse passes away, then the spouse who didn't regularly manage the finances may be at risk for exploitation because they need extra help and may get help from places that don't have their best interest in mind. Seniors who are at risk for exploitation are those who haven't planned for the loss of decision-making capacity. So those who haven't made powers of attorney or healthcare powers of attorney. And then as we age, things happen like diminished capacity, illnesses, dementia, things that leave us with decreased abilities to make good financial decisions. These are often easy prey for bad actors. This section of our presentation reminds me of Elizabeth Barrett Browning's poem, "How Do I Love Thee? Let Me Count the Ways." This section could have a poem that's, how can I exploit thee? Let me count the ways. There are so many ways that these people come up with to exploit and to get money from others. In parts 1 and 2 of our series, we talked quite a bit about agents under a power of attorney and fiduciaries. And we talked about the safeguards that we tried to put into planning documents to reduce the risk of exploitation by agents. There are investment frauds and scams. There's often theft or money by family members or caregivers, in-home helpers, leaving cash around on dressers and on tables and counters are easy targets for people to come by and just sweep them up. There are lottery and sweepstakes scams that say, you've won something and now send in this money to claim your prize. Most lotteries and sweepstakes you can't win if you don't play. So some seniors may think they have won something, but they haven't entered anything to win the prize. There are grandparent and imposter scams. And one of the key things that people forget to do is call the family member. Most of the time they have their phone number right in their phone. So call that person to just make sure that that person is in trouble or, so there are tax and debt collection scams. Most of them can just be ignored, thrown in the trash, but just calling a trusted financial advisor and calling your attorney to talk about these things. There are many examples of online dating where they spend a good 6 months or a year cultivating a romantic relationship, and then they ask for money, usually in the way of gift cards or wiregrams, things like that, and then they're out of their life and they never met them, but because the seniors feel socially isolated and maybe longing for companionship, they are too trusting and they don't verify. I'm sure everyone gets the telemarketer endless junk mail and salespeople with accents that we just can't understand. You know, those things we just hang up and try to report the numbers to our service providers. There are telephone, computer, and internet scams. A couple of years ago, I received a phone call that my fingerprints were found in a vehicle, and they gave me the license plate of my vehicle, but that it was found on the Mexico border in Texas, and that my fingerprints were found all over in a stolen vehicle. And so they tried to get my social security number, and they were the FBI or something like that. And I asked to speak to a supervisor, and they had a supervisor there. And then I asked them to send me a letter with all the information in it, and I hung up, and I never received that letter. Never received the follow-up. So that was an interesting scam for me. Be careful never to leave your social security numbers and cards, information that can be used to personally identify you. Don't leave them about so that people that enter your home can easily see them. Always be aware of reverse mortgages. They can be good in some circumstances, so always talk with your advisors about whether it's right for you. And then contractors and home improvements scams. I don't like it when people come door to door selling things. So if you need something done in your home, go through someone that you know or can easily find out about, and not through someone that comes door to door. We can talk about who the abusers are. A lot of times they can be strangers. So these are the people that call us, our spam emails. They're the contractors that come to our home. They can be on the phone operators that talk about things that we have, like Social Security or Medicare, and they need additional information, and they'll ask for things that if it was a legitimate service, they would never ask for over the phone. Romance scammers, people far away that we don't know. They can find pictures of anybody on the internet and post it as their own. But a lot of times, and most often, the abusers are people that we know. If our senior loved one is receiving care from a family member or any hired caregiver, friends and neighbors and acquaintances, those are the people that are most likely to commit exploitation. There was someone who is maybe receiving $1,200 a month with Social Security. Exploiting someone may not be seem like a great idea, but if you're exploiting someone that is also receiving $1,200 a month, doubling your income sounds really great. Someone who makes $5,000 a month might not be tempted by only increasing by a few $100s. But the thought of doubling your monthly income could be a temptation for some friends or neighbors. Sometimes financial advisors can also do this. And then we talked about in our previous series about agents, and we want to have as many safeguards as possible, have a lot of third-party accountability to help prevent exploitation of seniors. So some reasons that older adults don't report exploitation is they don't want to be seen as incapable of living alone or of managing their own finances. I might not report because if I do report, then my family members might try to take away what I do have and put it in the hands of another person, another trusted person. They might try to put me in a facility because they think that I can't live alone anymore. And so they might feel embarrassed If it's a family member or a caregiver that they have trusted, they may not want to get that person in trouble with the law. They may fear retaliation. They might think that they have to be physically abused. The abuser might be providing a lot of care and a lot of financial help and food help. And so if they report the abuser, then they fear that they might lose some of those benefits. A common one is denial. Maybe we think that it was legitimate, but it's something happened in the pipeline that went wrong, and that's how we something happened. It got lost in the mail, the money or something like that. That's why we didn't get our prize. But a really big one is lack of awareness, and this can be lack of awareness on the senior's part, but also the family members and the caregivers. We are a community, and we all need to look out for each other and to help prevent exploitation. If we suspect elder abuse, we can call Adult Protective Services. If someone is in danger of immediate danger, or a crime has been committed, then 911 is a great number to call. If you suspect or have concerns about a financial institution, you can contact the financial institution. I get letters from my credit union that aren't really from my credit union. And so if I have questions, I can, call the dependable number that that I've called for years, and not the number on the letter that I received. If we have concerns about credit products, we contact our creditor and not those letters that we get. If we see things on our statements, we can call our institution if been unauthorized credit card charges or payments and things like that. We contact our financial institution. A lot of times there can be exploitation by a fiduciary, and these are the duties what a fiduciary has to do. They have to act only in the principal's best interest. They have to manage the money and property carefully. They have to keep the money and property separate from their own money. And they have to keep really good records. So they keep records of every transaction, what's coming in, what's going out, dates and times, what it was used for, so that it can be reviewed and make sure that no abuse is happening. The power of attorney is a great document that allows someone else to handle your finances on your behalf. The principal names an agent to make decisions if the principal becomes unable to make those decisions on their own behalf. An agent under a power of attorney can exploit by pressuring the principal to grant more authority. They can misuse the funds. They could go to the store, do shopping, but also take out some money for their own, and that's exploitation. They might try to do things that you did not authorize them to do, like making gifts to their friends and family instead of to your friends and family. With the power of attorney, we put in safeguards, and the number one thing comes down to is picking a very trustworthy agent, someone who is good at managing money, that doesn't have financial issues or addiction issues, trouble with the law, and then telling everybody that needs to know, your family, your professionals, your financial institution. Tell everybody who does need to know so that they can keep an eye out on you, keep an eye out on the senior so that they can look out for misuse of funds and they can look out for abuse and exploitation. So the the general durable power of attorney is really important, very important planning tool for planning for diminished capacity as we age. Other forms of dementia like Alzheimer's and health problems can occur. And if we've planned ahead, then we can reduce the risk of financial exploitation. We have already set up a plan so that we know what's going to happen. And if something bad does happen, we have a plan for it. The Consumer Protection Bureau has a lot of great resources for principals and for fiduciaries, like agents and representative payees for Social Security and for guardians. And so on their website, they have materials for managing someone else's money. Fiduciary help them learn R, and we can help them recognize these types of scams and exploitation so that they can look out for you and look out for others. And we can help our fiduciaries know where to go to for help, like Adult Protective Services or calling the police, those kinds of things. If you are a victim, or you know of someone who's a victim, you can report. You should report them immediately to Adult Protective Services or local law enforcement. There, a lot of times can be abuse by caregivers and other in-home helpers. So, because they have access to checkbooks, access to cash in purses and wallets, they can very easily move from room to room and take things like heirlooms and china, silverware, things like that. They can take things from the home. So what we want to do is we want to tell our family to secure our financial documents, right? Make it so that people who come in the house can't access our private financial documents. If a caregiver goes shopping with a card that we have, we want to require receipts and look over the receipts to make sure there are no unauthorized item purchases. It's important to look over account statements and other bills. And if the senior has trouble doing it, looking over these statements, then have the account statements sent to a third person. You can have financial institutions send account statements to other people, and they can look it over. A great way to make sure the bills are paid, but also to make sure that things aren't being taken out of the account, like money's not being taken out of the account and then being spent on other things, is to have automatic payments and automatic deposits. Don't receive checks that can be made out to cash, and caregivers can do that. Safeguards also include not letting hired caregivers open the mail, pay the bills, manage your finances, because they have a conflict. They're hired by you and they may think that their wages aren't enough. And if they have access to your finances, then they may exploit. And never let caregivers use your money or property, credit, or ATM cards. And then we talked about having someone else read the financial statements. Always secure jewelry, watches, things like that, valuables in a safe place. And then it's important to check our credit reports. Check them as often as we can, and be very cautious about which website you use. There are some that say that they are the free annual credit report, but make sure you find the one trusted website that actually provides it for free. There are 4 key steps of successful intervention. And so we are focusing on the prevention part, educating ourselves, our loved ones, and our community. I order a lot of materials and I try to pass them out. They're not accepted like they're candy, but I'm trying to pass them out like they are candy, so that people can have these resources at their fingertips, and um, so that they'll read them, and so that they are more likely to recognize and spot the warning signs. If we are educated, then we have a better chance of fighting exploitation. How to prevent it, especially for those who are in facilities, but for those who are living alone too, we have great technology. So using technology to stay connected and informed, set up phone calls and video calls so that you can stay connected with your family, and to cut down on the isolation and the loneliness. If they're living in a community, visit them often as you can, and help others build awareness so that they can keep an eye out for the loved one. Recognizing financial elder abuse. You might not think about it, but if your loved one is telling you about something, don't just brush it off. Try to investigate it. And then if it turns out to be nothing, then great. If it turns out to be something, great, you caught it. You can do something about it. Don't ignore it. If someone is, if your loved one says that someone is doing things that they shouldn't be doing, then try to find out more. They may say that checkbooks or cards are missing, or important documents. And then if you observe that things are missing that you should be able to find visiting your loved one, then investigate. If you go visit your loved one and you notice that things are missing, or things are replaced with items of lesser value, maybe there's missing medications. If they have, say their bathroom cabinet is not full of the things that they should have, then they may be suffering from neglect, and their personal needs are not being met. If you see checkbooks or blank withdrawal forms left out in the open, that's a red flag. If you notice problems with their friends or with other family members, then always be aware of and cautious of decisions that need to be made right now, whether that's changing planning documents or making really big financial decisions. Try to be on the lookout for threats against your loved one, and people, exploiters only want to be, they want to allow visits when they're present. So if someone will not let you see your loved one, but only when they are present, then that's a red flag. And then if someone tries to speak for your loved one, and does the speaking for them, then try to get your loved one alone and let them tell you what's going on. This happens a lot in families. Families argue about loved ones' money. So just make sure that it doesn't go too far, and make sure that everyone is trying to do the right thing by the loved one. The friends are always a concern, especially new friends that want to really help out, and feel a sense of needing to help your loved one. They may be doing it because they want to do service, but they also may become possessive and try to isolate and alienate the loved one from family members so that they can start financial abuse. If you notice that your loved one is having trouble paying bills or managing their money, then that is a sign that something may be going on, that extra help might be needed. So if you notice that your loved one is getting bills for unnecessary services or medical equipment, or if money is being withdrawn from the account and it's not explained where it's going, then that's a problem, of course. Sometimes there can be problems with financial caregivers, and so we've talked about agents under a power of attorney. And so if someone says that they're an agent, then you want to see that document and make sure that it is valid and signed by your loved one, and talk with the attorney that helped draft it. And if it wasn't drafted, then you might want to look into it further. If just more of what to be on the lookout for. If we see checks that are signed by your loved one, but they're no longer able to hold a pen very steady and not able to press firmly enough. If you see different versions of a signature, and some of these things may not have been intuitive to us, but if you notice, if you know that your loved one had shaky handwriting, but nice and firm and is well written, then that can be a sign of abuse. Always be on the lookout for charges for items that your loved one would not buy, things that they don't need. If they're buying frequent gifts or expensive gifts and you don't know where they're going, and then if they're inexplicably selling valuable items and that's going to their care team, then that's something to be on the lookout for. Recording elder financial abuse is important so that we can give proper documentation to the police and to attorneys who can help stop the abuse and try to reverse it. So if you notice something, keep really good records, dates and times, locations. If you notice details of things, who was present, talk to people who observed it too, and possibly get their statements. And then if you can photograph something, these things help the police and attorneys. If someone makes a phone call, if someone meets with your loved one or prevents you from meeting, any suspicious letters or emails they get. And then with that information, we go and report the elder financial abuse. So there are lots of different ways of doing it. We can report it to the Department of Aging. We can report it to the Attorney General's office. We've talked about if it's an emergency or you've noticed, witnessed a crime, call 911. There are 24-hour hotlines. If you want just information or tips on things, you can call the local police. They have non-emergency lines. If you notice a scam, then you can report the scams. They're always looking for people to report scams so that they can spread the word so that other people aren't taken advantage of. If scams involve the US mail service, then they have their own inspection service that they like to receive reports to, and so that they can investigate. Same with Social Security. If it's involved with a financial account, talk to the bank or have your loved one, talk with the bank and the credit union, and file a report. If you think that people at the financial institution may be the people doing the exploiting, then you can look up different agencies and organizations that regulate and file a report with those agencies. So those hopefully give you quite a bit of information, things to look out for. This had to do with financial abuse, but there are also red flags of physical abuse. We won't go into that, but the more that we have this in our mind, when we go visit a loved one, then we can be hyper sensitive and hyper aware of these things, so that we're not just going in, having a nice visit and leaving, but we failed to notice that there were several signs of exploitation that we could have seen, that we could have recorded, that we could have reported and taken care of our loved one. So Linda and Elise?
Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, so I guess we can wrap this up. Just a note, if you live in the Mifflin County or Juniata County area, Dan's going to be at the Senior Expo in Mifflintown, Four Seasons Senior Center on Saturday. So if you want to stop out and say hello. Dan is also going to be conducting this 3-part series at Bosler Memorial Library in Carlisle on June 7th, 14th, and 21st. So if you want to check out our Facebook event page or our website event page for details, you can take part in that. It is free, and I believe no registration is required. Looks like there's something in the Q&A. Oh, thank you. You're welcome. That's it for us. The number to apply for services is on the screen. So if you want to apply, and if you've got someone who's got an issue, you can give us a call there. So have a great day.